The YNW Melly trial returned today and may have been one of the most important days this far. From one of YNW Melly's friends on the stand to even a confession video being found on Melly's phone, here's what you need to know. The trial opened today with YNW Melly's lawyers arguing that the prosecution are putting YNW Melly's friend on the stand without good reason. While doing so, YNW Melly was giving a very strange look to his lawyer.
On the stand is knowingly, Judge. They knew in the deposition, 1. 2, they knew when I put them on notice with my motion. So they had the opportunity after the deposition, 2, after my motion pointing out we violated the rule of sequestration, just not to call them. They, however, are going to continue to proceed knowing he has violated the rule and put him on the stand. So, yes, when we look at it that way, the state may be acting inappropriately.
The man she didn't want taking the stand is YNW Melly's friend named Trayvon Glass. Trayvon was there on the night of the crime. Thankfully, in his case, he stepped into the red vehicle while leaving the recording studio instead of YNW Melly's car. His job today was to clarify if there was any tension between YNW Melly, Sakchaser, and Juvy on this night, while also answering a series of questions that may affect YNW Melly. One of them, which reads, YNW Melly's friend confirms that Melly changed his clothing at Fredo Bang's house on the night of the crime.
Okay. Was that the first time you saw Melly after you guys left the studio?
Yeah.
Was Melly wearing the same clothes or different clothes than when you saw him at the studio?
It was a new day. Nah, he wasn't.
Nah, he wasn't. You guys
wasn't wearing the same clothes.
Okay. Do you recall what he was wearing?
Just had on some shorts.
Okay. And
as the prosecutors revealed earlier, YNW Melly was picked up by rapper Fredo Bang after the crime was done.
And Chris Thomas are. So what you're also going to find out is while Mr. Devins is out there on the side of the road, 4 in the morning, 4:42 specifically, he sends a drop pin, digital homing beacon, to his current location, to one of his friends, Frederick Givens. Frederick Givens is also involved in the music industry, and he asked to be picked up. Frederick Givens, then, about 11 minutes later, is sent another drop pin where Mr. Devins has moved a couple of meters. What you're going to find out as well, though, is these digital leashes, they have more than just phone calls.
While the case was continuing, it was very clear Trayvon was not taking this seriously at all. While on the trial's first recess of the day, it would go on to be reported, while on break, witness who was still on the stand was texting and using his phone.
All right, you're looking at me now. All right, thank you. I wasn't here. I left the office, left the bench to come. We're in recess, came back in, and counsel suggested to me that you're on the phone and you read something and you're discussing something on the phone. Is that true?
It's true.
Yes, so did it have anything to do with this case?
Not at all.
So was it some other business or?
So it's me texting. So.
You were texting?
Yeah.
Were you texting about the case?
Not about it.
What were you texting?
Texting saying that it's wild. That's all I said.
I didn't hear you.
I said things are wild. That's all I said.
Things are wild.
It's wild.
Anything else?
That's it.
And did you have a conversation with someone?
My brother called me.
This witness was texting while on the stand of a trial, saying that this is crazy to allegedly his brother. Sources claim this actually could have been strategized by YNW Melly's lawyers, with Trayvon being obviously loyal to Melly and being a prosecution witness at the same time. Doing what he did today, making it seem like he didn't care at all, ends up making the prosecutors look extremely unprofessional for even calling him in. However, there could be a much deeper meaning to him being on the stand today.
So Trayvon Glass has been really active on Instagram since he finished his testimony today. So he posted this on Instagram, and you can pause to read it, but in a nutshell, he basically said, "I'm not a rat, and if I am, come exterminate me." And just before he took the witness stand, he posted this image, and it's with Sakchaser and Juvy in it. So I guess that's in commemoration. I mean, he was friends with these two guys. And then he proceeded to post this video by Charleston White with a caption that says, "Bruh bug." And in the video, Charleston White is basically talking about, if you me up, he's gonna basically snitch to the prosecutors. So I'm curious as to who Trayvon Glass thinks is gonna him up for testifying. Now remember, he did take a phone call while he was in court, and that's when the judge had asked him, basically, who were you talking to? Trayvon had explained it was his brother calling, and he was just concerned about his whereabouts. In my opinion, it sounds like a number of people probably didn't want Trayvon Glass to testify today, so I'm curious as to who it was.
This would then lead into the next topic of conversation in the trial, as it shares more findings on YNW Melly's cell phone, where they would find incriminating text messages between Melly and his girlfriend if you truly read through the lines.
Moving on to Friday, November 9th, 2029, 20 UTC, 2018. Message from Melly Montana to, again, that baby. What does that one say?
You don't with me anyways. I peeped it. You can slide, but God knows I wasn't in her and real breaking. You spoiled everything was given to you. You act like a some slide. I keep Bortlen with cuz at the
For more context, YNW Melly's girlfriend was trying to tell Melly to stop being friends with YNW Bortlen. In other terms, she is going to break up with YNW Melly if he does not stop being friends with YNW Bortlen. However, Melly stated he's going to be loyal to Bortlen all the way until the end. Bortlen did one of the realest things in his life for him, and he will never switch up on him. Now I wonder what that might be. This ex-girlfriend YNW Melly is talking to is the daughter of the lady we saw take the stand earlier on in the trial, who practically shared that she suffered memory loss within the last few years, where the report states YNW Melly's ex-girlfriend's mother is a prosecution witness, but it looks like she doesn't want to be there testifying for the state.
I do remember that they kind of put me and my daughter and take her to jail for accessory. I do remember that.
Yes. And in terms of the statements that you made about what happened, you don't have any recollection of that. Did you read this statement multiple times?
I looked at it and I just didn't recall it, and I don't remember.
And so you indicated you hoped you were truthful with law enforcement.
Yes, I did.
I have to ask you to be more definitive. Were you truthful?
I don't remember what I said to them back then, so if I was to tell you something now, I could be lying. I don't want to lie on the stand because you're going to take me to jail. So I'm saying what you want me to say.
I do not want you to say anything. I want you to tell the truth.
Okay, that's what I'm doing.
However, it wasn't until after the court's recess where today's trial turned unbelievable, as the next piece of evidence was YNW Melly's confession to turning himself in. This has been never before seen until today.
There's also video number 1, 2, 3, 4. And in that video, Mr. Demons uses a term that I don't want, that I think would be inflammatory, and on 403 grounds we would object. It refers.
Play it again.
Sure.
Listen, everybody. This is real footage. My name is Melly, and I'm gonna turn myself in. But I'm in a suitcase because they are arresting me, and I have to get on a private jet, and I don't want them to see me.
That video you just watched has been talked about for roughly 4 years now. First being rumored in the court files on social media, to many believing that it never existed, to now finally seeing it is a very crazy feeling. As during the clip, YNW Melly states that people are coming after him, so he's turning himself in. It's rumored to have a much deeper meaning than everyone believes, as it's also rumored to be related to the new lawsuit from the families of YNW Juvy and YNW Sakchaser, Sakchaser. This new lawsuit against Melly seeks millions in damages. The lawsuit argues that YNW Melly, his music manager, and his mother benefited from the passing of YNW Juvy by using the hashtag #FreeMelly to promote his music. It states, and I quote, "With continued financial gain and notoriety of prospects and more, tensions began to develop between members of the YNW group. They highlighted the video of YNW Melly's mother talking back to Sakchaser, almost as if Sakchaser was doing something to upset Melly's mom.
Show me text messages from Sakchaser, all her friends, and all these people, like he's about this life. But I'm saying, like, who you ever out at? What you ever did? You couldn't even take charge. If you don't sit your down and don't ever come for me, because my credentials is real. It ain't even a joke. So don't ever try to come for me, because I don't even play them type of games. Like, what you got that I ain't got? Oh, you your little. I got big. At the end of the day, Melly is my child.
It then goes on to mention what they believe happened to Sakchaser and Juvy, stating, "Melly was seated in the left rear seat of the vehicle where he affected Christopher Thomas. Following the incident, during the critical period where it was still possible to save Juvy and Sakchaser, defendants Melly and Bortlen instead changed their clothing and staged the drive-by. In doing so, they destroyed evidence of their crime and they manufactured evidence to support the staged drive-by by using a firearm multiple times into and around the Jeep." It continues further reading, "Melly's manager, Jameson Francis, and his mother, Jamie King, were involved in the cover-up to varying degrees, including hiding evidence. Then the most incriminating evidence for Melly's manager would be when it reads, defendant 100K Track assisted Melly and Bortlen with the collection and disposal of the firearm that was used in the crime. Remember earlier how it was stated during trial today that YNW Melly changed his clothing. Not to mention, the prosecutors and Melly's lawyer also already revealed Bortlen changed his clothing as well, which really makes you wonder, why were they so eager to change their clothing? Also included in the lawsuit is a concerning video of YNW Melly and Bortlen, which reads, "The Stranger Things jacket YNW Melly is wearing in this video, just hours after the crime, is the same one Juvy had on when they left the studio early on that morning. YNW Bortlen is wearing the one Sakchaser had on too."
You see him? Melly still turned regardless of what happened this early morning. He's still out here being very positive. Turned still. Hey! The dog still turned, regardless of what happened. You already know.
Not only are they copying the clothing that Juvy and Sakchaser had on, but Melly is dancing outside, looking like he is in the greatest of spirits and even pretending like nothing just happened. This is precisely how YNW Juvy's father described Melly's behavior when talking to him a day after his son's passing, leading him to believing that YNW Melly was guilty.
From the day one, I believe that Melly was responsible for my son on October 26th when I first heard the story, because his explanation when I finally talked to him in Cortland on a FaceTime, their response and how they was reacting, they showed no remorse. They didn't act like they was grieving, like they lost a best friend or nothing. They was, in my opinion, they was in the best spirits. They wasn't reacting to, they act like they didn't have to take a loss at all. That's how I took it. And then when I was talking to them, I still had in the back of my mind that something's not right.
As while YNW Juvy's father was speaking out online about his son, we would even see Juvy's mother appear in the courtroom, confirming where her son and YNW Melly were sitting in the vehicle on that night.
Can you state your name, your full legal name for the jury?
Leon Phillips.
Okay. And are you related to one of the kids in this case?
Yes, I am.
How so?
I'm his mother.
And who is that?
Christopher Thomas.
posited to 1915. Ms. Phillips, did you see who entered into the occupants who entered into that gray Jeep?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a yes?
Yes.
Do you recognize where your son entered that gray Jeep?
Yes.
Which seat, if you can identify for the jury?
He got in the back seat on the right hand side.
Did you recognize the individual that got into the back seat on the left side, the rear driver's side?
Yes.
And who was that individual?
Janelle.
And Jamel, is that the defendant, Jamel Demons?
Yes, ma'am.
Mix in the new cell phone evidence alongside the lawsuit with Sergeant Williams' testimony, Melly isn't looking too great, as it starts with a report of forensic expert in the YNW Melly case explains how he determined it was not a drive-by.
Assignment, which is to determine if this is a drive-by. And my determination was that this is not a drive-by, and it's based upon this picture here, which is a very good picture to describe it. All of these rounds are done. One is done at a stationary position. At a stationary position when all but one of these rounds are going in. The one round that has some movement in it, which is round site L here, the actually moving in that to create the little bit of a that you see there.
Okay, a lot of information in that answer, so let's break it down a little bit. You mentioned so I'm gonna zoom in on site F.
This forensic expert is a 20-year veteran in his field. He's highly respected and is known to be one of the greatest in the United States at recreating crime scenes, which is why the next piece of evidence he shared is a lot more concerning. The report goes on to state, YNW Melly is accused to be the one using the firearm in this situation. Sergeant Williams, who said there was an item used 3 times in the Jeep, including 17 times outside of the Jeep.
Number, you said 17 outside the car. How many rounds were inside of the car?
3.
And can you exclude the for Mr. Williams and Mr. Thomas as coming from outside of the car?
Yes. From the driver's side back seat.
As to the shot that was Christopher Thomas, where did that
Driver's side back seat.
Okay. Is it possible for there to have been 2 inside that car?
No.
Why not?
There is no time.
As this evidence was so case-breaking, we would even see the famous rap lawyer break it down.
You see what the experts are doing for the prosecution, and what's interesting to me is what the defense is doing when they cross-examine these experts, which is they're essentially highlighting the prosecution's opinion. Rather than try to pick apart holes and say, what about this, what about that? They're saying, oh, this is what you're saying, right? That's a fact? Okay, and they're knocking them down, and they're pinning them down, and they're saying, okay, I'm gonna hold you to this. This is your opinion. You think you know for a fact that came after this person was bet. You think you know for a fact that these came from not a drive-by because of the trajectory, and I know bet. And so what you're going to see, what I assume, because what is the defense doing? Well, I assume they have experts who they believe are a lot more credible, who have testified a lot more times in cases, who have a lot more research and credibility based on their experience and history in the field. And those experts are going to come on and take the stand, and those experts are going to poke the holes and say, you can't possibly know when this in relation to that. You can't possibly know how. We'll see. But that's what seems like it's setting up for the defense's experts to come in.
However, here's where the conversation gets very weird. It's clear Sergeant Williams was sharing unbelievable evidence against Melly, making it seem as if he is the definite guilty one in this case. So when it was time for Melly's lawyers to ask him questions, the first question Melly's lawyers ask is basically a clever way of snitching on Bortlen.
And you are aware that the person that claimed it was a drug is Cortland Henry.
I believe so. I don't know who said that it was a drive. I was just asked to say if it was a drive.
Okay. And you are aware that when Cortland Henry made this statement, that this gentleman was nowhere around, right?
I wasn't part of the initial investigation,
okay.
So I don't know if that was included in Miramar's investigation with that.
Okay, but what you are saying is whoever claimed was lying.
Was incorrect.